Bohemian set is quickly becoming the exclusive destination for the well-heeled, who have found out that it's better out where it's wetter, and have brought their million-dollar lifestyles to the floating home. The Anthemia Floating Suite is the bargain baby of the list, since you can get a pair of them for $1 million with an asking price of $535,000. But what's the point of living the luxurious sea life if you're not doing it like a Bond villain? With styling right out of The Spy Who Loved Me, this floating home lifestyle unit is all you need
Well, make sure you like,
and
comment, share, and
sustainably
subscribe.
plot world
We're on the road
domination.
to 100
The results of
subscribers.
15 years of design work by naval architect Jean and Michel Duakencel, the saucer-shaped floating dome sits on top of a system that helps soothe out the waves in order to mitigate seasickness. Unlike many barge-based floating homes, this one can cruise off the destinations unknown, as long as there's water to float on. With a self-contained system, including 6 solar panels and battery storage and its own sewer system. There are 3 living areas inside the 535-foot living space, with windows all along the perimeter, both above and below the water. You know, just in case Bond is trying to sneak up on you with this submersible Lotus. The top opens up as a deck for 12 people to enjoy the view of wherever you manage to find your mooring. The company is offering them in a number of customizable configurations, alongside permanent residence, as well as meeting rooms, hotels, or housing for tourist-centered attractions. As of yet, however, they don't appear to offer accommodations for amphibious sports cars. While any place with a coastline and the right marina zoning will have some sort of live abroad or floating home community, there are only a handful of places that have really turned living the floating life into a lifestyle and attracted big money buyers eager to unsimplify the simple life. One of those places is Seattle, which of course is packed with coastlines and waterfronts, like Lake Union, which is home to a lot of fancy floating digs. For $4.35 million just 3 days prior to writing, this front row Lakeview house changed owners. Making the most of that prime dock real estate, the kitchen flows into the living room with a built-in fireplace and a deck that protrudes inside.
That
So
looks
on a
nice.
nice
I like
day,
that.
you can take your meals looking out over the water at the surrounding hills and of course the city of Seattle. If the corner deck isn't panoramic enough, and it's one of those clear days that occasionally happen in Seattle, a rooftop deck is accessible. When the rain keeps you inside, there's the home theater, or a sauna-sized bathroom to make it all better. It
Wow.
even has built-in Murphy beds to accommodate visitors. If being able to pilot your floating home to different moorings intrigued you, but spending a paltry $535,000 seemed just too pedestrian for your taste, then Arkup has you covered. For a cool $5.5 million, they've developed a luxurious water-bound dwelling that can tootle off when the surroundings get a little boring. The 75-foot-long liveaboard has 2 floors, totaling 4,350 square feet. In lieu of the complex stabilizing system on the Anthemia, the Arkup has 4 posts that can be extended up to 20 feet to the seabed to hold the house in place or take the floating out of floating home and lift it out of the water if the rocking starts to get to you. If you haven't gotten out of Dodge in time, the design is meant to withstand 155-mile-per-hour hurricane winds. You don't need to go
Didn't
all
know that.
Lieutenant Dan, though, because it comes with a pair of 135-horsepower thrusters that will push the craft along at 7 knots, so you can wait the storm out on calmer waters. When not anchored to land, the Arkup can sustain itself with solar panels and storage batteries, as well as rainwater collection that feeds the water needs of the residents. And when parked, a deck can be extended to take in the view. The bottom floor covers a kitchen and shared living spaces with windows out to the water, while the upper deck has 4 bedrooms, each with their own bathrooms. If you miss out on Arkup number 1, the company is hoping to give you 3 more, in addition to building floating eco-resorts for the Middle East, Asia, and the Caribbean. If you're looking for something less Bond villain and more in touch with nature, well, as in touch as you can get while building elaborate housing, then the Fennel House in Oregon is a great bet. The red cider house with glue-laminated beams is built to give the impression of waves crashing into waves. Like many floating homes, the water-facing side is dedicated to floor-to-ceiling windows and a deck to make the most out of living on the water. Where the crests near each other, the gaps are filled with windows that are shaped so that the light they let in gives the impression that the building is see-through, as well as giving it shape. The detailed and unique curvature of
I
the
like that.
ceilings,
That's
as
pretty
well
cool.
as the roof, are meant to give the impression of sails filling with wind. The final price for the project, finished in 2005, wasn't disclosed, but architect Robert O. Schatz's other iconic creations have demanded well over $1 million when they've reached the market. When it comes to floating homes in the San Francisco Bay Area, often the Sausalito floating home community that started off as an artist collective before being pushed aside for fancier accommodations comes to mind. But on the peninsula itself, in the shadow of Oracle Arena, is an even more exclusive floating community. Not exclusive because of the price, but exclusive because of the people that own one of the 20 houses in the channel that rarely put their houses on sale to the public. Instead, having them change hands between family and friends. The community was relocated to an area that had been used for banana shipments by Hart Industries from the nearby Islayas Creek to make way for a series of projects ultimately doomed for failure. In 2019, one of the houses was listed to the public for $1.8 million, with the listing itself making the news. At the time,
Dad, I'm in the
the
middle of a
listing agent said
video.
that it might have
I'll
been
call
the
you right
first
back.
time that any of them have been ever offered to the public. Built for $500,000, the building offered has a modern look compared to its neighbors. The open living space is divided by a sawtooth ceiling between a kitchen, social space, and dining area with a built-in window seat. Open stairs let in light to the bottom floor that sits below the water line, with the kitchen and living space on the top floor to protect the front door from water. Another place known for its floating home community is Amsterdam in the Netherlands. The canals are lined
I've
with
heard of
boats
that.
that have been converted to full-time living,
I've
as well
heard
as
of that.
purpose-built floating
Amsterdam?
accommodations.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Like elsewhere,
Probably never
the
been,
demand
but
for
I think I've
luxury
heard of it.
digs is being met with high-dollar offerings, like this $1.5 million De Friese Franje, sold by Sotheby's International Reality in 2019. Located on the Amstel River, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath affair, built as a floating palace. Prior to going to market, it underwent a 1.5-year-long renovation, adding sustainable materials and giving the windows a treating, making it harder to see inside while not interrupting the view of the river from the inside. If being seen while seeing doesn't bother you, there's a rooftop sun deck to enjoy the surroundings. To get through the cold Dutch winters, one of the bathrooms even features a hot tub. Generally speaking, the idea of location, location, location is what matters most. But when you can have a tugboat move your home to wherever you want it, that sounds even better, right? Like this East Lake slot in Seattle that sold last June for $3.75 million. The
Blue
Italian
and
villa
orange
styling
and
is
red.
striking, especially in that bright blue. It sports 3 rooms with a crow's nest style deck off the main one. Carved wood accents the interior, with the modern design making the 1 3/4 baths alive. But why not be surrounded in color when you're doing what you need to do? But the biggest accommodation isn't the inside, but the outside. The living space opens wide to a deck on the pier's front row, with views across the water and to Seattle, including the iconic Space Needle. The separate rooms have their windows facing the view, so that you can enjoy it wherever you are. At first glance, it might not be obvious why a rustic cabin built on a barge that looks like it could use some refreshing would have a $2.95 million asking price. But there's more to it than that. For most floating home situations, the house itself is only the beginning. This means that for the most part, these things are a cash-only affair because you're not buying real estate. It also means that after you bought your floating home, you now have to pay someone for a place to park it. Slip fees can be as low as $700 a month to $1,500 or more, unless you own the dock yourself, of course. In essence, what was being offered in the sale from 2016 was a dock with 6 slips and an on-land cabin, along with a 2-bedroom barge at the end. Income on the slips and renting the cabin
That's
has been
pretty
estimated
cool.
to be around $100,000, with operating costs around $44,000. It would only take 50 years to make the asking price back. Real estate is weird. For most of these floating homes, you're living at the edge of the land. But land is still a major component, and the sea is just the thing you're sitting on. But if you're looking for a place that is more sea than land, the Maldives and the 5 Lagoon project is for you. With the islands that make up the Maldives mostly at near sea level, in some way the Maldives have more ocean than they know what to do with. To make use of the abundance of wet stuff, the government of Maldives hooked up with Dutch Docklands and
That's a
Tap Water
lot
Studio
of
to create the
houses
Ocean
on the
Flower.
water like that.
Located in the prestigious North Mail Atoll, a 20-minute boat ride from the Mail capital and an international airport, the docks are configured into the shape of a Moldovan flower. Water Studios offered 5 different levels of floating home for the spot, with the biggest going for $2.2 million. For that money, you could get a 4-bedroom house with the usual open floor plan
Not
and
bad.
plenty of window to take in the view. The real treat, however, is the main bedroom set in the roof with its own sun deck, which is designed to have the room's bed pushed out on it if you feel like sleeping under the stars. If anything is being done in excess, it's a fair bet that somewhere in Dubai,
Oh my
someone's
gosh.
doing it in even more excess. Aside from the regular mainland Dubai accommodations, they also have a man-made feature known as the World, a series of islands shaped like the continents. In the European part, dubbed the heart of Europe, lies the first floating Seahorse floating home that changed hands for $2.5 million. Designed for Kleindienst Group, feels like they can do better, and has begun work on their $12 million floating Seahorse. Marked as the signature edition, these feature 4 bedrooms and common spaces that can be configured into sleep quarters when necessary. 2 of the levels sit above water and have all the features you'd expect when laying out more than 7 figures. What sets the Seahorse apart is the main and secondary bedroom.
Oh my
that lie
god.
beneath the waterline and feature
That
a
looks
large window
cool.
opening to a crafted reef that acts as a seahorse sanctuary. There are about 400 houses that make up the floating home community in Sausalito, making it one of the biggest floating home spots in the world. Sausalito sits on the north side of the San Francisco Bay and on the Marin side of the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. In the 40s and 50s, the floating homes were hosts to poets and performers, housing everyone from author Shel Silverstein to rock promoter Bill Graham. It was his dock of the bay that Otis Redding was sitting on when he wrote his song Sitting on the Dock of the Bay during a week-long
Sitting on the dock
engagement
of
with
the bay.
the promoter. If you missed your chance to pick up Silverstein's old digs for just shy of $800,000, you could have plunked down $1.3 million for this colorful 2-level, 2-bedroom affair, complete with rear dock for your boat that you can use to visit the sea lions that make the breakwater their home. Just like the San Francisco Bay Area, London is not known for its budget living options. Accordingly, if you want to make your home atop of the Thames, you need to bring money.
Wow.
$4.75 million will allow you to buy Matrix Island,
Oh my
a
gosh.
1930 barge converted into a 5-bedroom home. The main bedroom features a bathroom with a sauna and an additional living area with a wood-burning stove. Overall, there's around 5,000 square feet of living space, including a study and atrium stairway. If you need to get around on the water, there's a platform for your jet ski, because jet skis are fun. The mooring is in view of the Tower Bridge near London's financial district, and
Wow.
is negotiated separately. At the time of listing, it was around $43,000 a year. It's not all bad, though.
Probably more than
Since
that
it's a
now.
barge and not real estate, it avoids London's stamp tax on property, saving the buyer around $448,000 in taxes.
Wow.
Working our way back to Seattle once again on the freshwater Lake Union, which connects by canals to Puget Sound. The name might not sound all that familiar, but the area might be familiar for fans of iconic romantic comedies. Tom Hanks' character in the movie Sleepless in Seattle lived in a floating home on the lake. $3.75 million will buy you the Queen of the Lake, which is still available at the time of this writing. Moored beneath the Fremont Bridge, the 4,800 square foot residence features 3 bedrooms and 3 baths,
Wow.
including one main room with its own jacuzzi with windows overlooking the water.
That's
The
pretty cool.
requisite deck protrudes from the 2nd floor, and there's a home theater with a projector screen and reclining theater chairs. For getting around, the house also comes with its own bonus slip for a boat up to 32 feet long. With zoning and housing issues plaguing the Bay Area and Marin County's reputation for rampant NIMBYism, it's rare for there to be new floating homes in the storied community, as the city fights over what to do about housing in the area. For a relatively new construction, you'll need $2.85 million for this Japanese-inspired home, with striking exterior design cues, including the asymmetrical awning over the entrance. Inside the house, the Japanese and Zen garden influence continues, complete with shoji screens and tatami mat. The lower deck houses the main room, that has its own sauna, as well as its own house laundry hookups. One last trip to the lakes of Seattle for this recently sold $2.55 million home that comes with a mooring saving on mooring fees. Located on the corner of the dock, the 2-story accommodation comes with 3 bedrooms and 1 bath, and 2,000 feet of living space, and just over 1,000 feet of loft. There's
Wow.
the usual luxury accommodations: open floor plans, marble countertops, wood-burning stove, you know, the works. But what really makes this place stand out is a luxury feature that has come and gone decades ago: the conversation pit. Just the name alone manages to sound both epic and relaxing at the same time. It's a design that had its time from the 50s to the 70s, that consisted of a sunken section of the floor with seating all the way around. Just think of it as an indoor pool, but instead of water, it has shag carpeting. The conversation pit faded away in the 1970s as a dated design feature that didn't lend itself to families with children. But some people have started to give the unique feature a bit of a comeback. This particular conversation pit was built at the end of the pit's time in 1975. The space also includes 2 boat slips and 2 parking spots, so you can invite people over to enjoy your conversation pit. While floating homes are by definition floating and can be moved either by tugboat or under their own power, by and large they are stationary affairs. You have to make the most of your Sausalito or Seattle surroundings. While most of the cities that allow floating homes are world-class cities, not just on the west coast of the United States, but London, Amsterdam, and Dubai. If you're the variety is a spice of life kind of person, though, that might not do. Those looking for a change of scenery being the normal state of affairs, there are 2 new offerings, experimenting with an entirely new way to live on the water full-time. Cruise ship condos. The world set sail in 2002 in a continuous tour of the oceans of the world in a 622
Oh yeah, I forgot.
foot-long
People
cruise ship
People
with
can live on
152
cruise ships.
residential
I forgot.
accommodations. Unlike a traditional cruise, people live full-time on this ship as it visits ports across the world. Since it's not on a timetable, the ship will remain in port longer than a traditional cruise,
I
giving
didn't know that.
residents more time to explore before shipping off to the next port of call. Accommodations on board range from studios to 3 bedrooms. From storylines comes the MV Narrative, a 741-foot craft with 18 decks, a marina for personal watercraft,
Wow.
and a helipad. When not
Wow.
visiting port, there are what they refer
That's
to
cool.
as 18 bar concepts, as well as its own microbrewery. 3 swimming pools are also available to resident cruisers,
That's a lot.
as well as a 5,400 square foot garden and 10,000 book library. Pricing can be as little as $297,000 and as much as $8 million for the luxury accommodations. In a 400 floating home community where the houses are made out of everything from riverboats to Pullman train cars, it might be hard to stand out. You'd need something like the Taj Mahal, which is exactly what stands out in the community of the Sausalito floating homes. A small replica of the actual Taj Mahal in
Oh my
India
God.
as a floating private residence that has also managed to become a tourist attraction. The replica Taj Mahal was the creation of developer and vintner Bill Harlan, who had just visited the real thing and decided that he wanted one. Naturally, it features a wine cellar as well as a solarium and sauna. What would be better than an elevator in your floating replica of a World Heritage Site? A hidden elevator in your replica of a World Heritage Site. The entire thing was constructed in 1975.
Wow.
Somehow without a conversation pit. At a reported cost of $10 million. There were rumors that Harlan let the place go for $850K, but it turns out he retained ownership until 2007. Sure, you can live in a floating mansion as your way to establish your individuality and free spirit, if you're content with baby steps. If you're serious about living that independent water life, though, you'd plunk down $908 million for your own Principality, or the most notorious case of squatting in the world. We're talking about the Principality of Sealand. Not technically a boat, and not technically a principality, really. The disputed structure has had a storied past. Sealand started as Monsell Sea Forts 7.5 miles off the coast of England during World War II, which at the time was international waters. By 1967, it was being used as a pirate radio station when Paddy Roy Bates took it over to form his own pirate radio station. Being in international waters, he declared the platform an independent micronation. Negotiations to sell the Principality in 1978 to someone who called themselves the Prime Minister of Sealand, Alexander Achenbach, turned out to be a ruse to get Bates and his wife off the platform so that the mercenaries he hired could take the platform by force to prevent it from being turned into a luxury hotel and casino. The invasion failed and the casino hotel never happened. What to do with the disputed land has been an ongoing
So how do you
concern for
get
what they
down
consider
from
the royal
there?
family of Sealand. The Bates family, which houses a population, according to Bates himself, of normally like 2 people. The Pirate Bay tour renting site tried to buy the micronation to be their own country, with their own regulations, but ultimately, the sale didn't happen. Though housing a data haven has been floated. The Principality was at one point listed for sale at $906 million, but in 1987, England expanded its territory to 12 miles off the coast, covering Sealand. Some consider it the smallest micronation, but it hasn't been recognized by any other government. So if you do buy it, there are some legal negotiations you'll have to make. The ultimate floating home would be one that rises and lowers in and out of the water, like the Legion of Doom from the Super Friends. If you're gonna live like a supervillain, you might as well go all in.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I like all the floating houses. My favorite one is the blue and orange one. So, yeah. Bye.